So I thought it might be a good time to shoot a video, while the first snow of the season, which happens to be a blizzard, rages outside of my window. Yeah, there's 2020 for you. The first time it really snows and it's a blizzard. But, at any rate, this gives me an opportunity or kind of an excuse to finally talk about a subject which I had been meaning to do so earlier, actually. I wanted it to be a part of my whole Voids series. I cut it off at just the two. But, you know, let's talk about the cold. Something I actually really like. So, among the places that I would really like to visit before I die, on my bucket list of places where I'd like to go, Antarctica would definitely be one of them. Alaska too, Switzerland. Something that all of these places have in common is that they look, you know, frozen. They're all cold. They're all very, very full of snow. I mean, granted, the reason it's that way in Switzerland, depending on where you are, is because of the high altitude. Because, you're in the Swiss Alps or the Italian Alps. And, of course, it's colder up there. Snow falls, higher altitude, the air is thinner. Multitude of reasons why it looks the way it does. Of course, also the mountains sort of force all of that moisture up their slopes, essentially. Whatever moisture is coming in from, let's say, the side that faces the oceans, that moisture is going to sort of be forced up into the highest elevations of those mountains and then come back down as precipitation, usually as snow in those circumstances. Anyways, let me not drift too far from what I want to talk about, which is just the cold, and why I'd love to go to places like Antarctica or Alaska. Aside from the fact that you can see the aurora borealis from Alaska, well, most of Canada really, you also have an unobstructed view of space in those locations too, especially in Antarctica. It's just, clear skies. There's not much civilization there. So it's just you and endless space as long as you've got a clear night. It's just you and an endless sky as long as there's no clouds, hopefully. But there's also just sort of the emptiness of those areas. They're just, they're huge, white, snow-covered wastelands, essentially. Massive glaciers, icebergs, as far as the eye can see. If you were to find yourself in the exact center, it's a no man's land, which is exactly why I'd love to go there. Because as a person who, enjoys their peace and quiet and enjoys some time of solitude, which I can never seem to find, not really. That sort of location for me would be paradise. I mean, I wouldn't want to be there forever, but just to have that moment of complete quiet and sort of, solitary freedom, I guess you could say. Because it's just you and your thoughts there. I mean, you're like imagining yourself in the very center of the Antarctic sort of island. Just you, endless ice. I mean, endless space and what looks like just an endless expanse of ice. It's another sort of version of the void. I guess void for me might just be another way of saying sort of, quietness, emptiness, solitude. It's also very dark there. I mean, you would have starlight, I would imagine, and maybe also moonlight. But aside from that, you are completely in the dark, and if you could be, completely alone. And it's sort of just you and the setting itself. I mean, It's another place where human beings can't really thrive. We can only barely manage to survive. I know there are colonies in, very remote, very sort of extremely cold places like this. I think there's a settlement in Antarctica, but not so much towards the very center, but I think it's closer to the coasts. Um, and even they have to like work very hard just to make sure that they don't freeze to death. Um, they have to do everything in their power to keep the lights on and to keep heat going, I imagine, because it's not a place that we were. I don't know if we were ever really prepared to go as human beings. We're not really adapted to such an environment, um, which is why we need to like bundle up like crazy. Like I would probably have to take my huge red snow jacket that I have on days like this. But either way, just for the peace and quiet and the unobstructed view of space, barring any clouds, or maybe even the moon itself, I'd go there if I could in a heartbeat. If I was given an opportunity to take a trip there, I would definitely take it. It would be absolutely amazing. Or even to go to the frozen wilderness of Alaska or Canada, or hell to the Norwegian sort of northernmost areas. Pretty much in this sort of the void is cold video, which I've been wanting to do for like ever since I did those initial two videos. I kind of just want to share my love of the cold. I hate summer. I feel groggy and disgusting. You sweat. Whereas in the winter, you can bundle up. You can sort of keep your sort of cocoon of heat with you wherever you go, as long as you bundle up right. And there's no bugs, which for me is great because I hate bugs. And also, it's just sort of the peace and the quiet. And also how beautiful snow looks. Like, I know I'm a New Yorker, and New Yorkers, we tend to hate the snow because it just, it makes it hard to get around the MTA, and just travel in New York becomes really difficult when it's heavy snow like this. Makes it hard to get to work, makes it hard to get your car out of the driveway. I mean, any number of things you want to list off, New Yorkers will probably have already complained about it when it comes to blizzards and snowstorms, or even just light snow. But I still love it, even with all the issues that it causes. I still have never let go of my love for it. I've gone out just walking around in blizzards. Because, I mean, for one thing, you can, as long as you're careful and make sure to bundle up and keep yourself from experiencing hypothermia, but it's possible to do. And besides, here in New York, we never get heavy blizzards like other places around the world, even other places in the United States, where you sometimes could get many feet of snow, making it virtually impossible to go anywhere, whereas we might get like a foot or two, like 3 maybe, in maybe rare circumstances. I'm not even sure there's ever been a blizzard where in New York an entire yard of snow has fallen, but I could be wrong. I've never seen it in my lifetime. It might have happened before I was even alive. It makes me think too. Something I've been thinking about a lot ever since I wanted to do this the Void is Cold video is in reference to the title. I imagine the voids of space, or if you could find yourself in a sort of space-time that's devoid of matter and energy, any objects, or really any source of heat, just an empty void, just continuing on for infinity, for eternity, it would be extremely cold. I mean, I know absolute zero is pretty much impossible to reach because of certain effects of quantum physics, but it would be the closest thing you could reach to absolute zero, to complete stillness, a completely frozen, endless emptiness. If you were to be transported to such an environment, unless you had I guess a advanced heated spacesuit that could retain as much heat as possible without killing you. Because I know, like, in space, radiating energy or radiating heat is a very poor way of getting rid of heat, which is why white dwarves take so long to actually become black dwarves, because they take forever to radiate away their heat. But I imagine, like, a human being, we don't take nearly as long because we're tiny. Like, I wonder how long it would take for a human being to radiate away our energy, and that's including with like a advanced spacesuit that's made specifically, among other things, to keep you warm. But let's say you could achieve all that and also figure out space time travel and go all the way to this potential end of the universe. It would be damn cold. Or if you were to find yourself in the middle of a universe that's found itself well into heat death, and you were just on one random planet, or even, like, let's say if it's even still remotely a thing anymore at that point, imagine like an Earth in that far-flung heat death future, and you could just stand on it. Everything around you would be frozen. Everything would be even colder than the coldest temperatures that you can find in places like Antarctica. Ice would become so solid. It would be ice. Water on Earth would be so frozen solid. Water in anywhere would be frozen solid to such a degree that it would take on new properties, probably, because it would. It's not just that it's cold. It's super cooled. It's lost all potential, or nearly all potential, heat energy, and so I'm aware there is such a thing as, like, sort of how do I say it, sort of levels of frozen when it comes to ice, that there are certain forms of ice which are even harder than, let's say, concrete. They're not found there. I don't think they're really found here on Earth, but could be found in, like, other celestial bodies. So essentially you would have ice that's harder than rock, or as hard as rock, possibly. I might be getting this a little wrong, but yeah, just the idea of being in this sort of frozen wasteland with nothing but, empty space, nothing but space above you, and nothing but the snow crunching beneath your feet, space above you, mountains around you if you happen to be in that sort of area, or even just if you find yourself in a wide field of just pure snow and ice, with just space above you, and just quiet. Only you there. Only me there, I guess, because I'm always imagining this scenario. That for me is just... I'd love to experience that. It's also, I might talk about this more in another video that I've sort of thought about recently, about sort of an endless infinity of empty space, and how daunting that would be just to sort of try to think about. But I might include that discussion in a wider video about just the sheer scale of the universe, because it is just even just talking about the scale of the universe itself is just an interesting topic. And part of why I like to think about possibly seeing the Arc of the Galaxy before I die is, you get to see just how small you are in that scenario. And that's like another thing that I believe I would get out of such an experience, that sort of feeling of smallness, that appreciation of your smallness. but also just tranquility. But I guess the closest I'm gonna ever get to it for now is, you know, the frozen moonscape that New York becomes during the winter months, especially on blizzard days like this. But don't get me wrong, I love watching these happen. I love just seeing the entire city just being covered in snow. Um, because it becomes something different for a while. It's like nature sort of reclaims something for a little while. You know, we look like it looks like a different place for a while until all the snow melts, in which case it turns right back into the concrete jungle that it's always been. But yeah, I'm gonna stop it there. This is just kind of a off kilter, sort of in the moment video. Um, I'm planning to do scripts in the future for future videos because I've realized that I tend to repeat myself a lot. I try not to do it here, even though I probably did, even after I edit. But yeah, this is just sort of a did it in a spur of the moment sort of video because, I mean, it's snowing and I like the cold. Well, you know, why not? Anyways, thank you to anyone who watched this sort of video diary, I guess you could say. This whole YouTube channel, really. And I hope you have a great night. Stay safe, stay warm if you're in the northern regions like myself, and, well, have a great night, everyone. Or a great day, depending on when you see this. Goodbye.